Let's talk about Hungary. So Russia is not the only country with grievances about Ukraine. Turns out Hungary and Romania, two allied countries with the West, are also accusing the country of persecuting ethnic groups living in Ukraine. So Hungarians living in Ukraine, Romanians living in Ukraine. They're saying that Ukraine is persecuting these people, forcibly conscripting them into the military service. Hey, we know you're not Ukrainian, but you better suit up, buddy. We need you to go after Putin. You need you to go to the front lines because the Ukrainian army has been devastated. And now they're rounding up people on the streets. The Ukrainian army is pretty much gone. So what we need is people who are not Ukrainian now. We're going to round you up if you're living in Ukraine. It doesn't matter. We're taking ethnic Hungarians and ethnic Romanians and throwing them into the grinder. Now, the Council of Europe's Venice Commission is going to investigate Ukraine for violations of minority rights. Here's the headline. Kyiv's treatment of minorities to be investigated in Budapest. Ukraine has stripped the language rights of more than 150,000 Hungarians living in its territory. That had happened a few months ago. Now, and this all happened, of course, when Ukraine's borders were redrawn. It became home to around 156,000 ethnic Hungarians and 150,000 ethnic Romanians. You drew a new border around where they lived. 250,000 Moldovans. And of course, many hundreds of thousands of ethnic Russians, which we know about them in the Donbass. The way that they thanked them for living there is to attack them in a genocide for the last 9 years. And in Crimea. They had been permitted to learn and speak in their native tongues. They could speak Romanian if they wanted to. They could speak Hungarian if they wanted to up until December. And now President Zelensky has passed a law under the Ukrainian government mandating that Ukrainian be spoken in all areas of public life, including schools. So forget your Hungarian roots, get out of it. Recent reports have emerged of forced military transcriptions of people in these ethnic communities. Here's the headline. EU state slams Kyiv over brutal military draft from ethnic minority. Budapest's foreign minister has blasted Ukraine's conscription of Transcarpathian Hungarians. Ethnic Hungarians living in Ukraine are being enrolled in its armed forces to fight Russia. They say it's not our war, but it hurts Hungarians, the Hungarian people, he says. And they want this resolved swiftly. He says, unfortunately, peace is rarely spoken about, and those who talk about it are even stigmatized and criticized, the top Hungarian diplomat says. The report from the Council of Europe is due to come out this summer, and the foreign minister says that if this is not resolved, Hungary will take the issue to the European Court of Human Rights. So, there's videos have been emerging online too of you're seeing Ukrainians beating people in the streets, forcing them to conscript and become part of the military. So that's good. Like, here's what you want to fight for us. We're going to make you fight for us. So just to be clear, Hungary is a NATO country that doesn't want Sweden to join NATO. They're calling out Ukraine's bullshit about conscripting ethnic Hungarians to fight in a NATO proxy war. The West already doesn't like Viktor Orban, the prime minister of Hungary, who just won a sweeping re-election. This is starting to sound like the perfect soup base to push for regime change in Hungary, does it not? Can you start to hear the rumbling sounds of regime change in Hungary? Wait a second, Hungary opposes NATO in the West? What we'll do is we'll try to push Viktor Orban out of power. That's exactly what the U.S. is starting to do and push for in Hungary. Last week, USAID, which is has an operating budget of $27 billion, which is more than most countries, by the way. USAID sent Samantha Power to Hungary to start stirring up some stuff in order to lay the groundwork for regime change in Hungary. So here's USAID. It's responsible for, the mission of USAID is to help countries become more democratic, and we're going to help them. Like, they're responsible for administrating civilian aid and development assistance to help them become more democratic. to become more like the United States is our goal, is the mission of USAID. So instead of sending Samantha Power to Ukraine, so instead of sending Samantha Power to Ukraine, let me put a harder point on that part. So instead, she's going to Hungary. So instead of sending her to Ukraine, which is the most corrupt government in Europe and is well documented even before the war, as taking away individual freedoms. Like, here's the headline from The Guardian: state-controlled media, state control of just about everything, clamping down on your ability to worship as a Christian, media censorship, taking away language rights. Here's how The Guardian puts it: welcome to Ukraine, the most corrupt nation in Europe. Of course, this was before the war. Now it's even more corrupt. But this was before the war. And now we can't even, the mainstream media is ignoring the fact that Ukraine's the most corrupt country in Europe. Ukraine could learn a lot from how to create a democracy by having Samantha Power show up in its country, but instead they sent her to Hungary to stir up some shit. Here's how Samantha Power from USAID explains what she's doing in Hungary all of a sudden. It's so mysterious that she's suddenly in Hungary, isn't it? So here she is there on Valentine's Day. During my trip to Budapest, I spoke with Hungarians about USAID's new support for locally driven initiatives to support civil society and independent media, and how we can work together on key challenges to democracy and securing respect for the rights and dignity of all people. She actually says that. It's actually pretty funny, the United States lecturing Hungary about democracy and rights for all people. The United States, which just destroyed Europe's cheap fuel pipeline, the Nord Stream pipeline, you destroyed your NATO allies' pipeline. So these are your friends, whom you call friends, members of NATO, and you destroyed their way of life. You carry out proxy wars all over the world. You hold draconian sanctions against Syria so earthquake victims can't get food or health care. You detonate a train in East Palestine, Ohio, and render a city useless, and the government is nowhere to be found in that city to help its people. People lining up in a big meeting last night in an auditorium demanding answers from their government they won't give. So then you can tell, and you give, now they're drinking like polluted drinking water on top of it. You get to lecture Hungary about democracy and treating people well and independent media, when you guys have literally been caught red-handed infiltrating media and working in collusion with social media companies to censor voices. Like, this is the most hypocritical thing I've heard this week. And the week's not over yet, by the way. I love this. I mean, it's crazy. It's funny, actually. Hungary, in many ways, is more advanced and more democratic than the United States on a whole host of categories. You can go down the list, actually. It's pretty funny. So Samantha Power released a video to show exactly how she's spreading democracy in Hungary. Watch.
I came to Budapest to discuss USAID's new support for the Hungarian people, but I also underscored that the United States wants to work more closely with Hungary. A central component of this work is making progress together on addressing some key challenges to democracy and helping secure respect for the rights and dignity of all people. I sat down with members of independent media and civil society organizations that are dedicated to promoting the rule of law and exposing corruption here in Hungary. The U.S. government is committing $20 million to bolster civil society, to help independent media thrive and reach new audiences, and to support community-led initiatives that can empower local groups trying to make change. We are looking forward to working with the Hungarian people in building the future they want.
AKA the future we want. I mean, we're going to spend $20 million to literally create regime change in Hungary. I mean, can you guys see right through this garbage now? Please, please, please. It's hilarious. I mean, the U.S. is literally laying the groundwork to overthrow the Hungarian leadership. That's exactly what's happening here.
Well, and it's like how many these promotional videos just drive me insane because it's like they send a marketing team over there. They set up to try to get the best shots, how can we really draw emotion? Take a selfie with the crowd. This crowd doesn't know who the heck this lady is. It's like, hey, she's taking a selfie. You know what I mean? It's just like it's such propaganda. Like once you see it, you can't unsee it.
Yeah, it's like, oh, here's the thing, right? The U.S. is going to pay for a big dinner for everyone. So this is, the U.S. is putting on a little fancy propaganda dinner. Do you want to come for a free dinner that the U.S. is paying for? Sure, I'll go. What the heck? I haven't had a good meal in a while, so sure, I'll go and have a good, get some college kids together and we'll go have a good fancy meal on the USAID's dollar. That's how these happen. Get a room full of people so the U.S. can tell you how to live your life. So Aaron Mate sees it. He sees it. He says, he tweeted this: if you bet on regime change campaign kicking off in Hungary, your odds just drastically improved, on Samantha Power's tweet. Exactly. Here's Arnaud Bertrand. He tweets, this is absolute meddling, which, by the way, runs completely contrary to the UN principles of non-interference, just in case international law still means anything to a rules-based order advocates. So how long until we're really hearing about, oh man, Hungary is corrupt, more corruption. We're here to stamp out corruption in Hungary. So we really got to push for a regime change in Hungary. That's coming to Europe near you. Just keep your eyes on it. Remember that you heard it here first or second. We'll be covering that. Thank you so much for watching this segment here at Redacted. We are live every day at 4 p.m. Eastern Time, trying to share the stories that the mainstream media will not cover. You should also come over and join our community of Redacted Rebels over at redacted.inc. That's our private locals community where we can share exclusive content that we simply cannot share here on YouTube. Come over and join the rebellion together right now by going to redacted.inc. We'll see you next time.